All right, so let's go over the policies and the procedures, important dates for the actual semester. So in terms of being on campus, this is obviously an online course, and you'll be getting all of your lecture material through videos that I've posted. So all of your learning itself, all of your coursework will be done at home using your own machine. You can certainly come to campus to use the lab machines. I'll talk a little bit about that later on. But the exception to the online part is the midterm exam and the final exam. The midterm exam is scheduled for June 7th, and the final is on June 27th. For these, I do require you to come to campus. I'm going to give you 2 different time slots on each one of these days to complete it. You can choose whether to do it at 9 a.m., you'll have 3 hours, or do it in the evening at 6 p.m. And usually that fits into most people's schedules. Now, I realize that some of you might have registered for the course because it was 100% online, knowing that you couldn't make it to campus at all. Maybe you have a work situation. Maybe you're going to be traveling during these times. If there's an extenuating circumstance, we can work it out. We can figure out a way for either you to take the exam on a different day or to take it remotely. The only thing that I ask is that you contact me before May 30th and that we make specific arrangements to do this. It's got to be because you're significant distance away from campus, or you really have some work obligations that just won't make it work. For everyone else, though, I do require that you do come to campus on those days, so please mark those on your calendar. Textbook. The textbook is absolutely required for this course. It's not a particularly expensive textbook in comparison to some of the others. You can certainly buy some used copies for a bit less than the going rate. It's a relatively short book. It's a book that has been picked out specifically because it's an excellent reference for all of the material that we're going to be covering. We are going to cover nearly every topic that's discussed in the textbook. We're going to stay relatively close to it, but I will point out in all of my slides and all of my lecture videos exactly where we are in the textbook. So you'll be able to read along. I highly encourage you to read the textbook before you view the modules, the actual videos, and we'll talk about that in a moment. The textbook's going to give you a lot of background information. Once you've gone through the videos and you've actually done some programming, you're also going to need a reference. You're going to need just some tips to do some of your problem solving. The textbook is also the best reference for this. Going online and just sort of Googling answers about C++ is actually going to be really counterproductive because C++ is a huge language. And most of the resources that are online, the overwhelming majority of the resources online, are geared towards professional programmers, which are using a dialect and a feature set of C++ that is very, very different than what we're teaching here. And so, you'll eventually build up to that if you're a computer science major, but it's going to be really unproductive for you to do that for this course. For this course, your go-to is the textbook, and it is me in my programming examples. So try to use the web fairly judiciously, because you're going to get a lot of very confusing information from the web. So please get the textbook. As I said, this is an online course. Aside from the textbook, all of the course material is on my webpage. And so I'm going to flick over to this. This is at pages.rampo.edu/sfreeze courses CMPS 147, and we're in the summer. So this course webpage is where you should be visiting now and constantly. Clearly you've already been here if you've gotten to the video. It's got links to Moodle. It is organized and structured into 5 weeks. You can see all the modules, all lecture slides, and the videos themselves that you'll be viewing are all listed here. So this is all loaded up right now. All of the programming examples, I have about 30 different programming examples that I actually go through and implement the full solution in these lecture videos. You can download them all at once by clicking on this programming example .zip. I wrote a lot here on the syllabus, kind of giving you an idea of what to expect and how to succeed in this course. So I'd ask you to sort of read through this on your own and sort of pay attention to the tips that I've given you. The labs, the homeworks, we'll talk a little bit about that. We've already talked about the midterm. They're all on this webpage. This is the definitive source of information. So if there's ever a discrepancy in an email or some sort of a video or something, this is always, whatever's on this webpage is sort of what's binding. We also do use Moodle. So if you log into moodle.rampo.edu, you will see that there's a link to the course syllabus, and then there's a link for each assignment that we have in the course. I'm not going to post content to Moodle, it's all on my website already, but you're going to go to Moodle to upload all of your programming assignments. And I'm going to talk a little bit about how important it is to upload the right stuff in a little bit. Okay, so as I said, and as you saw on the web page, modules themselves are really the core of the course. So instead of sort of just lectures that are on a preset time, I've broken the course into 30 modules. They range from, some are only about 20 minutes, some of them are more like 50 minutes or so. They are particularly targeted towards individual sections of the textbook. And each module really should be looked at as a set of resources. It includes a lecture slide. It includes a recording of me not just talking about the lecture, but actually going through in detail, a lot of code examples. So embedded in these modules is all the source code for the programming examples that I go through in an individual module. And then, of course, the textbook reading associated with it. So each one of these 30 modules really has all 4 of these resources tied up into it. My advice to most people is to read the textbook first, and then listen to the recordings, but also to try to do the programming examples themselves. So I think a good way to go about kind of consuming the material is to listen to the lectures, then start from scratch, do the programming examples, and if you have to go back to the lectures and listen again to see how I solved it, to see how I did it, that's fine. But one of the things that if you read the syllabus and as you can continue to look at the different modules, you hear me repeat many times, you will not learn to code unless you program yourself. And let me repeat that. You will not do well in this course at all unless you do a lot of programming yourself. Looking at slides, listening to me talking about code, reading about code, reading code is not really going to be what cuts it. Right? You are definitely going to have to do these programming examples on your own, and that's why we have so many assignments in this course. So treat these modules as an opportunity to sort of get a lot of practice at a particular topic and get a lot of background information about that. You should also be working very hard to stay on schedule. This course moves fast. We only have 5 weeks. We're covering an entire semester worth of material, and frankly in a fall and spring semester, a normal schedule, students often fall behind even then. This is a course that moves very fast, and if you're not a computer science, well, this is a CS1 course, so I guess it's everyone's first computer science course to some extent. You may be very surprised to realize that every single module builds on everything that was before. So there is no way that you can say, well, I didn't really get module 3, I'll just move on. That's not going to work. So you need to make sure that you stay on schedule. You need to make sure that you budget your time really wisely. All of our assignments are always due on Sunday nights. You can't wait to the weekend to finish this stuff. You're going to have to work every day during these 5 weeks to stay on schedule. When you find that you're coming or falling behind, you got to reach out and talk to me. You got to email me, and we got to get you caught up because we do not want to have anybody fall behind. I mentioned that there's a lot of assignments. We actually have 12 distinct labs. They're programming labs. So within each of the lecture slides, or 12 of the different modules, is a full lab assignment. So it's a program that you're going to have to do yourself. I don't give you the solutions to these labs. I don't go over the solutions in the modules themselves. These are for you to totally do yourself. The labs are designed, even though maybe the first couple are going to take a little longer, the labs are designed to take about an hour. They're specifically going to target skills taught in the module that it's presented in. So they're going to be very targeted. Your labs are going to be uploaded, and you're only going to upload the C++ source code file. And I'm going to talk a little bit about that when you hit module 2. But you must upload them by their due date. This course moves way too fast for late work. All assignments are due on Sunday nights, and no late work will be accepted for any reason whatsoever. So you'll get an automatic 0 if it's not uploaded by the due date. All of the details, the deadlines, are all in Moodle, and of course I go into a lot more detail on this on the course syllabus itself. Homeworks, it's kind of a false distinction. The labs are done at home as well, but the homework assignments are really geared towards much larger projects. So they're not going to take an hour. They're going to take 4, 5, 6 hours for you to complete some of them. There'll be one roughly once a week. The last week we don't have one. They're still due at the same time, Sunday nights. You'll notice there is a little bit of discrepancy. Sometimes I say 11:59, other times I say 11:55 on Moodle. Moodle only allows me to set a due time in increments of 5 minutes. Basically, whenever you see this, if it's due on, let's say, June 20th, it's due at the end of that day, right? So it's 11:59 on June 20th. If you see 11:55 and you're late by 4 minutes, it's fine. I'm not going to give you a 0 for that. If you're off by a minute, I'm not going to give you a 0 for that either. So don't get confused with that. All labs and homeworks are already posted. You can absolutely work ahead if you wish. I in fact encourage it. The first half of the semester, if you've programmed before, you might be able to really plow ahead. Do so, but don't skip. Don't skip to homework 3 and try to do it without doing all the labs in between and doing all the modules, because you're just going to get frustrated. It's not the type of thing that you can do with that. Again, everything builds throughout the whole semester, so it's not something you can really skip ahead with. As I mentioned, due to condensed schedule, there are no late assignments accepted. Again, the Moodle due time is 11:55 p.m. If you submit that at 12:10 in the morning, I'm not going to give you a 0 for that. That's okay. But more than an hour or two late will not be counted. And certainly by the next morning, if it's not submitted into Moodle by the next morning when I do the grading, it will stand as a 0. Module 2, Part 2, that's if I skip over to the syllabus, if you look at Module 2, Part 2, Video 2, I go through a lot of discussion about how to upload to Moodle. It's important for you to follow instructions very specifically and directly in this course. Programming and operating the tools of programming requires an incredible amount of attention to detail. If you don't pay attention to those details, you're going to submit the wrong thing. You're going to do things incorrectly, and it's sort of an all or nothing type deal. So make sure that you always upload the right stuff. And again, you're going to have plenty of opportunity to kind of see that instructions shortly. When you're clicking on, when you're going onto Moodle and you're uploading assignments, it's a fairly straightforward process. This is actually from a previous course, these screenshots, but the user interface is the same. You'll just see Lab 1, Lab 2. You'll see these running down the list in Moodle. You'll click on it, you'll add a submission, and you'll save. When you do add submission, you're going to go find your .cpp file that's associated with each lab and each homework assignment. Again, this video is just an introduction. You haven't written any code yet. Don't worry about it if you don't know what a CPP file is, but just remember when you start to submit assignments how important it is to follow these instructions. About the software, about C++. So if you were in an English class, if you were in a history class and you were writing an essay, you'd perhaps write it with Microsoft Word or some other text editor. C++ is written in programming editors, and there's a lot of them. What we will be using in this class is Visual Studio. So let me try to be kind of clear with this. C++ is a programming language that works in Windows, it works on an Apple, it works in a Linux environment. However, we have Windows machines on campus. You are required to use these Windows machines for exams and midterms and final exams, which means you need to learn how to do C++ in a Windows environment using Visual Studio. Visual Studio is a programming editor that works with Windows. It only works with Windows. It does not work on an Apple. If you have an Apple machine, that doesn't mean you can never write C++ code on an Apple. It's the same C++. There are programming editors for an Apple computer. And you can certainly, and I've actually linked to them on my webpage. If you read through the course syllabus, you'll see that. You can certainly use them, but you do need to learn how to use Visual Studio as well. So I strongly recommend that you gain access to a Windows machine and you install Visual Studio. That's what we're going to be using on the exams, and it takes some time to get used to that editor, to get used to knowing what menu buttons to press and all that kind of stuff. So it's not something you want to do for the first time on a midterm or final exam. So again, just to be real clear, this link is kind of difficult to read here, but if you look at the actual lecture slides and click it for yourself, I have a full write-up. I think if you print this out, it's like 17 pages. I have a full write-up with screenshots for installing Visual Studio 2015. It's a free program. It contains all the tools that we'll use. It works the same way on campus as it will at home. The first thing that you need to do for this course, and I would do it right now as soon as this video stops, is access this page and install Visual Studio and get your first program to run. I gave you the program, the actual source code all the way down here. All you got to do is type that in. This is so important. The number one reason students fall behind in this class and never recover is because they don't get Visual Studio installed right away. They think it's going to be easy, and then something doesn't quite go right, and they miss the first deadline, they fall behind, and before you know it, we're at the midterm, and things are bad. So that's my big warning. You need to install Visual Studio right away. Do not expect that it'll go perfectly smoothly. Follow the instructions really closely though, and I think it will. I think it'll work out fine for you. Most students don't have any problems. So don't wait, do it now. Grading policy. The labs. So you've got 12 labs, all put together, they're worth 10%. So each one is less than 1% of your grade. So certainly if you miss one, it's not really the end of the world, but I really think labs are one of the most important part of the course because there's so many of them and they're so frequent that it's really where you're getting all the practice actually writing code. They're also the best way to study for final exams and midterms, redoing the labs, these small targeted programs, because frankly the midterms and the finals are going to require you to write programs that are very similar to the labs. So treat the labs really seriously, even though they're not worth that much as part of your grade. The homework assignments, there are 4 of them. They're worth a total of 20%. So each one of those are worth 5% of your semester grade. Those are larger assignments. In both cases, if you need help, if you get stuck, you want to sort of walk a fine line between struggling yourself, because you're going to learn a lot by struggling through it and sort of pushing through the difficulty, and getting stuck for so long that you're frustrated. When you get stuck for so long that you're frustrated, the first thing you should do is walk away for a while. Programmers around the world will attest that when they get stuck and things aren't working, they can sometimes just go for a walk or just do whatever they're going to do for a couple hours and come back, and they solve the problem very quickly after that. That happens a lot. But if you've done that, you're still stuck, you don't hesitate to email me. I'll be able to help you. Email me the source code of your lab or your homework, and I'll be able to tell you what I'll kind of unblock you and make sure that you can continue. The midterm is 30%, and the final exam, which is going to be comprehensive, is 40%. I do not curve individual exams or assignments or anything like that. So your grade is what you get. At the end of the semester, the final letter grades can be curved up sometimes. Sometimes they are, sometimes they're not. It depends on how the rest of the course does. This is a pretty large course. I don't expect there to be a lot of curving involved, but it's possible that, if you look at the grading rubric on the course syllabus down here, I indicate that, let's say for example, a B is an 86 to an 84. It's not unheard of for a B to also include an 83 or an 82, depending on how the rest of the class does. I'll never penalize you for the curve, though, so if you earn an 84, you're guaranteed a B. Communication. Is an online course. I'm going to be checking email very frequently. I will get back to you in many cases within a half hour. In some cases, if I'm if I'm out for today or I'm doing something during the day, I might have to email you back in the evening. But I will get back to you quickly. And the more information that you give me in your email, the more likely it is you're going to get a really quick and accurate response. So for instance, if you email me and say, hey, my code doesn't work, and you don't send me your code, I'm not going to be able to help you. And I'm not going to really be quick to respond either. If you send me your source code and you tell me, hey, at this particular line, something's going wrong and I don't know what it's about, I might be able to answer your question right on my phone, and you can have an answer in 5 minutes. So the more information that you give me in these emails when you're stuck, when you're having trouble, the quicker and the more helpful the response is going to be. Whenever I don't anticipate making a lot of changes to due dates or anything like that, but if I do have any reason to get in touch with you, I'm going to be doing it through email. So please make sure that you check your email very, very frequently. I don't have normal office hours. I'm not going to be on campus a whole lot during this semester. If you need to see me, you let me know. Usually what I'll do is we'll set up like a Skype conference call, and I can screen share and see what's on your screen and help you. If that doesn't work for whatever reason, we want to meet face to face, we should be able to make it happen with a little bit of notice, but certainly something like Skype's going to be easier. So that's it for policy stuff. You want to get started now. Again, like I told you, the first thing that you want to do is access the Visual Studio link. If you go to the course webpage under, let's see if I can find it here, under course materials, I've got the link to Visual Studio here. If you have a Mac and you want to use something else, you can use Xcode. You can click on the links for that, or Eclipse. I have some tutorials for those programs as well. Again, like I said before, though, you must learn Visual Studio because you must use it on the final exam. So try to gain access to Windows, try to get Visual Studio up and running. Lab 0 is really just to demonstrate that you've done that yourself. Okay, thank you.